אני שלום, הבן של אריה, ואני, חלק מהדברים אני אגיד באנגלית לטובת האורחים שלנו. We would like to thank, first of all, the Truman Institute for initiating and hosting this memorial, and to all of you who are here today to honor our father. We would like to especially thank Naama and the people of the Truman Institute for their thoughtfulness and kindness in letting Father keep his room this last year. It was very significant and comforting for him, and he constantly mentioned it. Also, I'd like to say that there's some books behind that they're handed out, so whoever wishes can take the book. כמה מילים בעברית, סגן השגריר שכרגע נמצא בניירובי. הייתה לנו זכות גדולה, ששמו אייל. הייתה לי זכות גדולה לפגוש את אריה ז"ל ואת רעייתו המקסימה אסתר, רגע לפני יציאתי לשליחות הדיפלומטית הראשונה שלי כשגריר ישראל בקניה באוגוסט 2018. כששאלתי את השגריר הנוכחי, נוח, גל גנדלר, את מי כדאי שאפגוש בארץ בזמן המועט שיש לי לפני הטיסה, אריה היה בראש הרשימה. כשגריר מיתולוגי שלנו בקניה, באזור מזרח אפריקה, ואני כל כך שמח שיצא לי להכיר אותו, לשמוע ממנו על חוויותיו ולקבל ממנו עצות לדיפלומט המתחיל. אריה אמנם כבר לא איתנו עכשיו, אבל איתי במשרד הוא תמיד נמצא. כשאני מנסה לשפר את כישוריי בסווהילית, אני פותח את המילון שלו עברית סווהילית, המונח על שולחני, וכמובן, כשאני רוצה ללמוד יותר על היסטוריית היחסים של ישראל באפריקה ועל האזור, אני פותח את אחד מספריו, יהי זכרו ברוך. דרישת שלום חמה לכל הנוכחים מניירובי. And now I'll say some words on behalf of our family that were written by Yair, my son, Arye's first grandson. Most of you in this room have known Arye as a diplomat, an ambassador, a research fellow, a teacher, and a prolific author. I assume that many of you had known him as a friend and colleague. To me, he was grandpa. And as his grandson, I would like to share a more personal account of who Arye was and how his presence influenced those around him. One of my earliest life memories is of a trip my dad and I took to Nairobi to visit my grandparents, when Grandpa served as Israel ambassador to Kenya. I vividly remember the house they lived in and the safari excursion we went on, the animals, the nature, and grandfather's enthusiasm with them all. Even though I was young, those days in Kenya were incredibly meaningful to me. To this day, I view them as my first introduction to the real world, but more than anything, they were an introduction to my grandfather, to his values, to what he was curious about, and what he held dear: nature, culture, tradition, history, and human beings. Throughout my years in school, Grandpa always looked for opportunities to help my research and expand my views on topics I wrote about. We would convene in his legendary study and sit and shift through the countless documents that were so neatly categorized and contained troves of knowledge about the Middle East and Africa. When I began my service at the United Nations Refugee Agency, he would engage me in conversation about the hardship faced by asylum seekers and the governments that host them. Those of you who were close to Grandpa must know that he was often set in his ways, had a fairly defined view of the world and very strong opinions. Yet, in our conversations, he always remained curious about what I had to say and considered views that negate his. But beyond his knowledge and life experience, beyond the stories and tales about the days in Africa, Grandpa taught me a lot by simply being who he was, the dignity which he carried himself, his modesty and sensibility, his diligence and work ethics, as well as the contradictions he embedded, being playful yet composed, funny yet solemn, worldly yet traditional. Grandpa has been a consistent role model for me in ways I'm still discovering to this day. It pains me deeply that I was not there during my grandfather's last days and that I was unable to attend his funeral in Shiva. His passing took me by surprise. I felt unprepared to lose him. There was so much more to talk about, so many stories left to be heard, so many questions left to be asked. Before his passing, grandfather expressed concern about the survival of his work and materials, recognizing the value they had for future research and diplomacy efforts. Today's gathering is proof of your legacy, grandfather. It is my sincere wish that in decades to come, your unique life story and extraordinary work will continue to inspire people from across the globe to learn about one another, to explore each other's worlds, to debate with one another, and most importantly, to recognize the humanity in one another. Thank you.